Arrow Season 5 finale, Lian Yu. This was definitely a really great finale. We got to see, kind of from the last episode, all the characters coming back into play. We get to see Slade for whatever reason. We even got Captain Boomerang. I don't know why in the world they brought him back, but I was like, okay, that's interesting. I guess, with all the characters they were killing off making the Suicide Squad movie, I forgot he was on Lian Yu as a part of, like, the whole prisoner thing. So when they mentioned him, I was like, oh, I totally forgot he was still alive or anything. So I was like, alright, well, Captain Boomerang, he's back. So we get to see Slade, Boomerang temporarily, and Nyssa and Malcolm working with Oliver, and it was a pretty good episode. It starts off, I think, from top to bottom, I think this whole episode was pretty intense. It's constant allegiance switches where it's like, oh, we find out that when they actually get to everybody, it's a trap, and it turns out that Boomerang was already working for Chase because they came to him earlier. They mentioned that because, I would assume it's because they thought Slade was still kind of crazy, which turns out not to be the case. He realizes he was kind of a crappy dude, stabbing someone's mom through the back and murdering her kind of makes you a crappy person. So it turns out Slade is actually a cool dude now, and I guess they thought he was crazy, so that's why they didn't make a deal with him before. Seems like he's turning on Oliver. He actually ends up working with him still. Seems like he turns on him again later in the episode, and that ended up being a part of the plan. So it was just all really well done, because it's Slade, so it was like every time it happened, like the first time I figured he was tricking them, and then the second time I was like, I guess he decided to change his mind or something, which wouldn't have surprised me because it's Slade. But it was definitely a good episode just for the action alone, and then we have some emotional moments. We actually surprisingly have a moment between Malcolm and Thea, and after that moment we have Thea actually missing Malcolm Merlin, which is insane because he takes her place, and I would imagine he died. I mean, it's Malcolm Merlin. Admittedly, if he lived, I would not be too surprised by that. But I would have to assume him stepping off that mine, he killed himself, he killed Boomerang, maybe injured, those League of Assassin members. But it was like, wow, he most likely killed himself. But I always say this, if you don't see a body, you can't be 100% sure. That's just television. There will always be some way or something happened. So, that's just how it is. We'll see in the premiere. I would assume we'll find out what happened to everyone on the island. So we'll see if he's really dead or not. But that was definitely a good sequence. They touch on it just a tiny bit with the whole Olicity thing, with Oliver and Felicity possibly getting back together because Williams, or Henry, I forgot the kid's name, honestly. I want to say it's William. His mom actually talks with Felicity. He's like, are you guys not together? I noticed you weren't wearing the ring, but I saw the way you kissed Oliver, so that doesn't seem like it's complicated. And I thought that was interesting. It seems like they're building back up to that. And as I mentioned before, I know a lot of people probably don't want that or don't care about it. But for me, I think they're actually doing it in a decent way compared to how it's been done before, where it's like it's mentioned, but it's really subtle, and it's like, okay, this is probably advancing in this direction, but it's not like the big focus. So it's like, all right, I can appreciate that. If it's referenced, then they move on to the rest of the finale. It was like, yeah, that's a cool way to do it. So I thought it was fine. The team, of course, is still split up. Finally, we see Dinah and Renee. They didn't realize that anyone else was on the island until Diggle and Lance end up showing up. So they end up being trapped inside this temple that apparently has been on the island the whole time. They probably showed in like season 1 and I just didn't remember. But Oliver mentioned, like, I saw the island once from a distance, or the temple once from a distance. I was like, oh man, I don't ever remember seeing any reference to this temple before. But they end up fighting inside this temple, which was pretty awesome, and we get to see, Black Canary versus Black Siren. We get to see Slade going in. Of course, he's just doing his, samurai thing where he's just like slicing people up left and right. We get to see Nyssa versus Talia, which was definitely a really cool fight sequence. We get to see, of course, Oliver versus Chase, which was really good. That's when it was like really picking up. Like, I enjoyed the whole finale, but once it got to the actual fight sequence, like as soon as they have that moment where everybody is seemingly saved and they're like, all right, we gotta find my son, I know he's on the island, and they're all about to leave, Chase kicks, he walks through that door. It was like he kicked it open. He just walks through, he like pulls that sword out, and it's just like he pulled it out super fast, like, I'm just ready to chop somebody's head off. So he was just mad. And once it got to that point, it just like skyrocketed, because it's like all this crazy action is really good, and then it boils down to Oliver as a person, and we get, of course, throughout the episode, we're going through the final flashbacks, and it was just so well done, the way they were tying it together. They did a lot of action tie-ins and cuts for the flashback to modern day, which they don't do very often, so they did a lot in this one, where it's cutting back and forth through Oliver's fight with Chase, and then Oliver's fight with Kovar, and it was really well done. And it's like the same man, but in a sense, two different people, because of course we have Oliver finally about to get off the island, and Kovar's like, "Oh, I don't have to kill you. I just have to make sure you miss the boat and everything." So it was just really well done, like that final fight sequence, and Oliver taking him out, and he did it like twice I think in this episode, but he did like the backwards neck snapping thing, which was like the first time we saw him kill someone was in the beginning of the series. That was the way that he did it. So it was just very interesting the way that they kind of tied it in back and forth, and how he's changed so much, even though this is a much more drastic situation. He still would not kill Chase, and like he's just almost in tears, like he's like, it got this dude in the chokehold, and everyone's looking at him, and it's like, I'm not gonna do that no matter what. I'm not gonna become the person that you want me to be. Like I was that person, but I've changed and I've become something better. So it was very well done, and he kept it going, and he was doing the best that he could, and Chase tries to push him constantly, like I knew it would come down to this, and then he says that his son is dead, which ends up being a lie. But it was just so well done. Like, they go through all this stuff. Eventually, everyone splits off from Oliver. It's like, all right, we're going to get the plane. We're going to take off. By this time, we already find out that there are bombs all over the island. And then, that's where we also find out, I guess, like, right after that fight sequence where Oliver officially decides not to kill him, that's when we find out that it's tied to his heartbeat. So if he dies, the whole island will completely explode. Like, there's just bombs that'll go off all over the freaking island and kill everything on it. So everyone splits off. It's like, all right, we'll get to the plane. We'll fly off. You get your son. Take down Chase. And it was great. It was a great ending sequence. And, it's like we find out that the plane is actually been sabotaged, so they can't fly the plane off the island, so everyone's trapped on the island. Oliver's with his son, and he's with Chase. And it's this final moment where he's going, it's just a back and forth, and it's like, you either choose your son or you choose everyone else. And I didn't know how things were going to play out, and I was like, this is insanely intense, and I didn't know, what was going to happen next. And of course, Oliver, he lowers the bow like he's about to give up, and then he shoots Chase in the leg, gets his son, and I was like, he did it. That's, he did the hero thing, didn't kill him. Excuse me, of course, he can't kill him at this point anyway, because everyone would die on the island, but he found a way to get his son and have everyone on the island still be safe. And then we get like our final flashback where he's talking with his mother, and it's that reunion that they had where she's crying and he's crying and he's really happy and stuff. And then it cuts to, of course, Oliver in present day with his son, where now he has that moment of reunion where he was so worried and he thought that there's just no way to do it, and he got his son back, and it was a really great moment. And then it starts getting weird because Chase is like, it's really good that your son has you now. It's like your son now knows who you are, just like you knew who your father was when you're here on the island. And Oliver was like, what are you talking about? Like, it got real confusing. And as soon as he said that, I was thinking, like, are we about to get some other crazy reveal that Chase knew that they were on the island the whole time or something like that? But he's just talking, it's like, it's good that you have each other now, and you can trust each other. You know who each other truly are, because it's going to be lonely without a mother or anyone else around. And he kills himself, and just all these explosions go off in the background, and it was just a crazy way to end the episode. But definitely a great finale. I would assume they're fine. At least most of them. They might be injured, but they're going to kill everybody off, and it's just Oliver and his son. So I'm very excited for where we're headed for the next season. But this was definitely great. It was a really great finale. Like, the action, of course, was good. We got to see pretty much every single character had something to do. Oliver was doing his thing as the main character. Everyone got like a bit of focus as during the fight sequences and stuff like that. So it was all really well done, and I really think they did a great job with this finale. I guess the flashbacks are over. I don't really know what to think about it anymore. And I thought for sure, and I mentioned this in the last episode, because I was like, I couldn't remember how many years he'd been on the island, and I thought it was like we still had a bit more time left. And then it was like, no, he's been on the island for this amount of time, and then he's leaving. I thought we still had 2 years, because I could have sworn he referenced the fact that it was 7 years that he was on the island, or at least missing. He was 7 years where he was missing. And, we hit like year 5, and that's where, he's leaving and stuff. So I'm like, is there going to be another flashback where that's not when he actually left? Is that what they're going to end up doing, where it's like a twist, and it ends up taking an extra 2 years or something crazy like that? Or something there, but it seemed like no, that's because we get the actual opening from the series where Oliver is running through the woods and he puts on the wig and everything and the beard and all that good stuff, and then he signals the boat. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. That was a cool way to do it because it was like the actual opening sequence, and I was like, all right. So he's getting off the island, but I could have sworn they said that he was there for 7 years. So I don't know. I'm super confused at this point, but either way, it was a great ending to the flashbacks. Whether that's the end of the flashbacks officially, or we are about to get some crazy twist in the next season where it took him another 2 years to get back home, even after that moment, because something else crazy happened. So I'm excited to see, where things are headed for sure. But it was a great season finale. Got some really good action. Had some, really great character moments. Slade is actually a decent human being, so we'll see where they decide to take that as far as him going sort of the anti-hero route instead of being the full-on villain that he was before. So I'm excited to see how they do that version of his character now that he's kind of off the Mirikuru and he's, just mentally okay. But great episode. Insane finale, insane way to end the finale as well, where it's just like Chase kills himself. Great villain, by the way. I mean, he was good this whole season. I think he's one of my favorite villains by far for Arrow. Like he definitely gets I think he's my number two. Like after Slade, I think I gotta definitely give it to Chase as like one of my favorite villains of the show because he was really freaking good. He was Prometheus the whole time, and then it turns out that Prometheus, he's not Vigilante because of course that's what everybody thought. It was like, oh, he's obviously Vigilante. And it's like, nope, he's actually Prometheus, the main villain, and he's effing insane, and he's got like these crazy genius schemes the whole way through. Once it's revealed, just piece by piece, every little thing was going his way, all the way down to the end, and he still kind of got it, or at least seemingly he kind of got it because he killed himself and everyone's on the island. And it's just like, man, that's a great freaking villain. Like just the whole way through, just pushing Oliver, trying to force him to be the crappy person that he left behind. It's like, I'm not going to do that. And it's like, if you don't, you lose everything. And even when Oliver actually won, it's like, well, I can still find a way to win myself. And he kills himself anyway. And that's just to mess with Oliver and leave them alone. So, great freaking villain. I gotta be honest, it was a great way to do that character. I'm very excited for next season for what the heck they're gonna do because there's, it's just like somebody's got to come into play. Who knows, really who it's gonna be, but I'm definitely excited for it because this was a great finale, and we still got so many characters on the island. There's a lot that they can do with some of these characters because we still have Talia al Ghul is on the island, so that's a big deal, and Black Siren, and both of those characters, I feel like they can do some interesting stuff with them if they end up escaping and maybe teaming up or however that might play out. But it's like there's definitely some story elements left for both those characters. So I'm excited to see what they do there. Of course, who's actually alive, who's actually dead. We'll have to wait until the end of the year to figure all that stuff out, but definitely a great freaking finale, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and I would love to know what your favorite moments have been from this season, some of your least favorite moments as well. I think this has definitely been a really good season. To be totally honest, I know it's one of those things where the show is like really up here, and then a lot of people think it dipped like super far down. And I'd say this one definitely picked it up from the last season for sure. I like the characters that they introduced. Oliver, building up this new team with new characters that came in, most of which stayed. Maybe we'll see, like, I want to say his name was Rory. Maybe we'll get to see him come back in some capacity in the next season. But definitely like what they did for this season. And like I said, the villain got to be my number two villain. As much as I like Malcolm Merlin from the beginning of the series, it's like the first, the Dark Archer and everything, which is great, especially with the mysterious reveals. Kind of the same thing with the whole reveals and stuff. Which I talked about before. I'm pretty sure it was like they always have the archers, like the mysterious reveal, and then it's like, oh, it's the person we knew the whole freaking time. But I still think I like Chase more, especially after the reveal. I think for Merlin, it kind of died down after that. It was like, holy crap, it's Malcolm Merlin. And then it went to like, the whole destroy the city thing. But with Chase, it was just like, it was mental warfare. It was just crazy with him. So I think I liked him a little, just a little bit more. And then, of course, Slade was just like, there's just so much with Slade. Like, it literally tied in. Like, he had storylines in both the present and in the flashback. So it's like with Slade, it's hard to beat that when they kind of did it perfectly. Where it's like, he's in every part of the story. Where it's like them as best friends. And how that transitioned into him becoming Deathstroke as we're seeing him as Deathstroke already. So it's like, it's kind of hard to beat that when you got so much storytelling with one villain character. So yeah, it's hard to beat just the way they even told that story, and him as an awesome character in general. But Chase is definitely a second because he was just really, really well done. So excited for the next season. Like I said, would love to know what you guys thought about this finale. Of course, would love to know your theories for the next season, and of course, just what you guys want to see. Ton of different characters that we have seen, tons that we haven't seen. So just would love to know what characters you guys would like to see and what things you would like to see in general for the next season. So please comment below, let me know, and I'll see you guys next season.